Good evening. Welcome to our, it says video 3, but it's actually video 6.
I don't know. The others were not quite so much of us, but more of the kittens and the room, the making of this room. But
so this is the third main video then, kind of back to the core Château renovation stuff.
Yeah, I think so.
So there's a couple of things we want to talk about today, so much so that we wrote it down, because there's nothing worse than being unorganised. A lot of you have been asking, especially Samantha and Susan, to get a tour of the kitchen. So we've organised a tour of the kitchen. So we'll do a brief little update about what's been happening last week. Last week was a bit busy and we didn't get around to this video. Then we'll duck off to the kitchen section, which is wearing a different clothes. You'll notice a different shirt. And then we'll come back and we'll answer some readers' questions, because we like when you guys ask questions, and you guys apparently like asking questions. So we'll see how that works. So do you want to tell us about the coin?
Yeah, so the room we started works in this week. Last week, was it last week or the week before? My 6-year-old found a Napoleon coin in this room, and it was, of course, a big excitement for the little ones. They were convinced that we finally found a treasure, and to some extent it is a treasure. We're very excited to have found something that's so old. I think the date on it is 1855.
Something like that,
if I remember
yeah.
correctly.
It's older than me.
There was a few more discoveries today, again, in a cupboard, but I will keep that a little secret for now.
Ooh, it's kind of like a teaser, trailer, spoilery type thing if I knew what that stuff was. Because we keep telling the kids every time there's an opportunity to uncover like a box of gold, and then we can potentially, fund the whole renovation works in the chateau, which is one of the questions we'll get to later about how this is budgeted and being financed. And then let's do a quick wrap up on what the works were last week. So last week the focus was mainly on finishing some pointing. We talked about we've been trying to get most of the kind of messy stuff in the house done. So we've been trying to get all the old plaster and things off and out of the house to kind of get that blank canvas so we can then start renovating. And then part of that is when we strip off old plaster to make sure the stones don't fall out of the wall, they get pointed. And we've been nominating the walls that need pointing. So one wall behind us, but some walls upstairs in the bedrooms above us. So that was part of the works last week.
Maybe you can explain a bit more about the process of pointing.
I thought you can explain more about the process of pointing.
It's
like this.
The expert. Very funny.
So pointing is, as you can see in the wall behind, so you can see the stones, and pointing is using a lime, mortar, sand mix to go around that. You can choose how deep or shallow you want the pointing. But it's generally filling in around the stones, because these stone walls are old and aren't made with concrete. Well, not concrete as we have it today in terms of cement, and pointing is the traditional method.
I asked Andrew to explain because I had no idea what pointing meant. It was not a word that was part of my vocabulary for a while.
What's pointing in Afrikaans? Gepointerig.
Uitwijs.
Uitwijs. That's like a lookout.
Yeah.
Kijk het meer, uitwijs. I don't think pointing is in Afrikaans. Well, maybe someone can tell us later in a humorous comment. And then also we've been doing lots of work on the garden. We had another friend round who was doing some gardening work, and we love to get out in the garden, especially again. We'll be letting the cat out of the bag for another question later. But after a day's work, we quite often go out in the garden and we'll do either a couple of hours of trimming or some pulling out of brambles and ivy, because the garden's terribly neglected.
Plenty of those.
Yeah, plenty of those. And trying to rescue the trees. All the oak trees are, buried under ivy and mistletoe and brambles. But we had a friend in doing lots of clearing for 3 days,
Yes.
and totally attacked and cleared all around some of the fir trees.
Did a brilliant job. Really, really good job.
Yeah.
We're very pleased. Completely changed the garden.
And we got some new pots as well. We got a collection of 10 or 12 pots.
13 in total.
13.
In the end.
Unlucky number. I should break one. So we've got some new pots which will go around the garden, and collected a few more plants with them. Some of them, they came full, which was really heavy, especially some of the bigger ones.
2 trips.
I was expecting the guy to say, and I'll empty them now. And he said, no, you can have the plants too. So we got some time out of it, which is quite a bonus.
Yeah.
2 trips. Gosh, the poor car was groaning on the second trip.
And it was close to the Spanish border, on the way to the Spanish border.
Yep. Nice drive.
So yes, it's wonderful what you can find on Marketplace. But yes, let's move to the kitchen, and we'll be back to answer a few more questions.
We'll be back in a minute. Thanks.
3, 2, 1, action.
Right. So this is take number 4 of trying to show you the kitchen. So you have asked a number of times to see the kitchen. So in true French style, voila, here we are. Now there's a couple of things we want to show you about the kitchen, and then we'll give you an overview of some of the rest of the kitchen which isn't totally accessible today. So you've asked a few times previously about the floor. So these are fairly large. In fact, some of them are kind of 1 by 3 feet. Solid pieces of slate. They're about 2 or 3 inches thick, maybe 4, I can't exactly remember. We have prized a piece up because there are some damaged pieces or some worn ones in the very well-trodden areas that we'll look to replace. But the plan is to keep this floor because when cleaned and a lot less dirty than it is right now, it's very beautiful, huge chunks of slate. Next thing we want to talk about is the original sink. So this would have been the outgoing water area for the kitchen and is very, very old, probably dates to one of the starting periods of the house rather than the other periods of architecture we have across here. It has been used to strain some pasta recently, as you can see, and a very useful person has had Chinese with 1 chopstick. The sink is ready for use in washing up almost immediately as soon as water can be added. Over here is our new incoming and outgoing water source. I think used to be an old bench or something here, and the plan is to replace it with a more modern usable sink. So this will be our water area, and that sink over there will be used more for decorative purposes or something. Over here we have a very weird shelf unit which we're not really sure what it's for. There's a number of different tiling and wooden and tile, kind of wall tile pieces on it. So interesting, no idea what it is. You can feel free to give us your comments later. And behind me we have the windows. So the plan in this room, because this is north facing and these windows are in a good state of repair, as in they haven't been beaten by the sun, the plan is to restore and repair those. So keep them as is. One of the original ideas was to see if we could save on the glass and just use cobwebs to cover them. But the spiders haven't actually been as efficient as we'd expected, so we're going to have to replace some glass and treat the wood. And then over here we have the fireplace. So an idea of perspective, I'm
8.
just under 1.8. I'm just under 6 foot, so 5'11" or something like that. So this is the size of the fireplace. It is decent for a kitchen. It has a little door over here for probably an old French oven previously where they would have made the bread. And there's got all the original metalworks from, well, some fairly original metalworks, including chains, etc. So the plan, because of the size, is probably to put some kind of big augury type rectangular stove in here. Ideally wood burning or something a little bit old and rustic, which will fill the space, look nice, and deliver a lot of heat and can be used for cooking. Now, the rest of the kitchen is being used as a storeroom. There's no active work going on in this room at the moment, so we'll do a quick tour around and flavour. It's actually holding another kitchen for another one of the rooms upstairs. So here's an original wooden feature which we're retaining and doing something with. I believe my wife wants to do shelves or something, so she knows the magic there. But this is the current kitchen door, which I believe the plan might be to block up and use as more shelving, because we've opened up a wall over here and joined it with another kind of weird small podgy room, and we thought this would be the sitting eating area allocated to the kitchen, because like most families we spend a lot of time in our kitchen. So there's now a set of double doors which go out onto the main hallway and the stairs in the yard. So that's the tour of the kitchen.
And here we are back from the tour of the kitchen. That's supposed to be quite funny. That was my idea. Right, so readers' questions. So we have 3 questions. So the first one is from both Catherine and Elizabeth, and they have questions broadly around how's the project budgeted and how's it financed. So it's kind of like when your son goes to college, it's bank of mum and dad, which in this case is not our parents, but us. So we're financing it fully ourselves. So we purchased the property. When we purchased the property, we set aside a budget, a very exciting spreadsheet, which Sunita had almost no input into, apart from reviewing, which we basically allocated enough money to buy the property and then to do all the renovations. And we set aside the fact that it was going to be the total cost. So we didn't just buy the property and then walk in unawares. So we planned out things like putting in a driveway and putting in wood and putting in a septic and putting in all the bathrooms and the bedrooms. We tallied all that up and we said that's the total cost.
Yep.
You're nudging me for some reason.
No.
Very good. So we tallied that up, and so that's the total cost, and then we made sure we had that enough plus some contingency. I think we threw in 15-20% contingency on top. So it's financed all through us, and through us, it's through some savings we had, and then the fact that I work.
A few visitors have asked us if we do get any help in the form of a grant from the French government. But unfortunately, that's not available to us as we're not French residents yet. And I don't actually know if this building will qualify. I think it's mostly for buildings that are almost classified as listed buildings, where the government can help out. But unfortunately, in this instance, we don't get that. If you have any ideas how we can, let us know.
Well, my view is slightly different. I'm not sure I'd want to become listed now, because when you're listed, it really encroaches on some of the renovations you can do. And some of the planning processes you need to go through. So if anything, I'd prefer to finish the renovations and then look at listing or funding for potential ongoing maintenance or whatever we choose to do with the place. But I'd like to get the works done first so that we're not bogged down by someone else's bureaucracy.
Yep.
Anyway, Catherine and Elizabeth and everyone else, I hope that gives you a bit of insight and answers the question. The second question was from Linda, who says she's got an electrician husband and we still haven't seen him knock on the door. So I'm not sure when he's arriving, but if you could let us know. If he's at the airport, he could have been there for a long time because I'm not sure how long ago you posted that. So, Linda, please let us know where your poor husband is. And the last question is, what are our professional backgrounds? Which we've had at least 2 questions from, so Lee and Sandy. So do you want to go first?
My background is in channel marketing or marketing. My last job was with an American company. I was channel marketing manager for Europe, Middle East and Africa. And then I had my oldest son in 2012 and I gave up my job to look after him with the idea to return. And by the time he was 14 months, I was expecting our second boy. I took a short contract after that, but decided to become a full-time mum. And
well, it's understandable. It's better hours and better pay, right?
Better pay. Better hours, 24 hours a day. But yes, we also home educate now, so that's keeping me quite busy. And I write between all of that, and hopefully there'll be more in the future with writing.
So basically, you're a full-time mum, part-time author, part-time chief designer at a Château, part-time pulling everything else together, and an excellent wife.
Oh, very nice.
Oh. And my professional background? So I'm
I don't know what he does.
She has absolutely no idea. Something with computers. Something with projects and computers.
Yeah. A lot of people say, what does your husband do? And I say, he's a project manager. And they say, so what does he do? And so I don't know. Ask him.
So I manage projects and programs in the telecommunications industry. And I have done for many years. So I bring in the lime mortar and the bacon.
The bacon. Mm.
Well, lime mortar as well. It's fairly important, especially when you're doing a Château. So that's it. So as usual, please give us your comments. Please ask some more questions. We hope you liked the video. And from us at the Château, that's à bientôt.
À bientôt.
As well, we got told au revoir shouldn't really be au revoir. It's à bientôt.
So hopefully see you soon.
Indeed.